Hello, everyone. Good evening. お願いします.
お願いします。
So, number 10, we're on the last one for the rules in daily life or 10 characteristics of a life with key. I'll just read a little something from Will Reed's book. You must learn to persevere if you wish to accomplish anything great. This is no easy task in learning something new. For soon, after you make a little progress, you always encounter a wall. If you give up whenever you meet resistance, then soon your whole life will follow that pattern. But just as the endless rain of the rainy season someday lifts, nothing in the universe continues as it is indefinitely. If you persist and wait, there will sometimes be a change. All survivors know this instinctively. Once you experience this, you have access to a tremendous power. So, persevere, or as the other translation stated, persevere as long as you live. Shishi futo is the Japanese. So, persevere. Easier said than done. I know for me, Aikido training, was difficult for me in the beginning, and it really hasn't changed. It's just my attitude has changed with it, and that is when I first started training Aikido, I wasn't very coordinated. I was much older than all the other people in my class, because I started Aikido at a community college. So at 30, I was 29, just turning 30 years old. It was, I was in there with a bunch of 18, 19, 20-year-old kids, so to speak, in the class. So that was something I'd never experienced before. However, I did have, training in perseverance with the military, and and I was never a big athlete, but when I was big into before I did Aikido, I was really big into cycling. And when I lived in Southern California, I decided to do a race, a road bike race, and it went from Death Valley to Mount Whitney. That means below sea level to one of the highest points in California, being Mount Whitney. So it was like 10,000 feet. So you went from below sea level to 10,000 feet. And the race was no stops. It wasn't a stage race. It was they started at noon on a Sunday, and then you finished when you finished. So there was, I think, 100 people in the race, and I think I trained specifically for it, and I came in. I came in 17th place overall. Not too bad for an amateur. In my age group, I was like second place. Uh, and I remember riding that race, and I had a friend who was my assistant, and he was driving my car while I cycled. So he would go ahead to the different stages. He'd come by me and drop me off water and what have you on my bike. And they had these little rest areas. And I got so exhausted that I just laughed. I was in, I'd slightly sprained my ACL before. I overtrained for the event, sprained my ACL, but still wanted to do the race, did it anyway, fought through the pain. And I just remember at a rest stop, I'm just laughing, and I'm just like, I can't believe, I'm here doing this thing, and I just couldn't get over myself. I just thought it was very funny. And uh, and of course, I finished early that next morning. I think it took me 17 hours, 17, 18 hours on my bike to finish it. Like the first guy there was like at 14 hours. I mean, they did it. It's all uphill except for one downhill section. But I just remember, doing that race, and you get to a point where, runners have runner's high. I didn't really experience that other than I had this fit of just saying never lose your sense of humor. That was my antidote for the pain and the suffering I was going through, is just to laugh at it, because I chose to do it. I wasn't forced to do it at all. Um, and so, the words Toy Sensei uses, this is the 10th one. And if we look at all 10 of these together, the last one is very fittingly persevere, move through. And I'll never forget Suzuki Sensei saying, if you succumb to pain once, you succumb to pain always. And it was just something he always used to say, when he would inspire us with all these different stories. But that was one of them that stuck with me when he would say that. And he was like the guy. I mean, he trained. I mean, he live as you train, train as you live. That motto was his, solely. So, you know, I tend to commend that, and that's no different than meditation practice. We all do our breathing meditation, and some days you just don't want to do it, or you just don't do it, but there's always that little voice in my head, Suzuki Sensei going, I used to breathe 1 hour every day. I would just go, oh yeah, I can just do 20 minutes, or I can just do, whatever, you know, amount of time, and just continue. Just like when a thought arises, you just go back to your breath. And a thought arises, and you go back to your breath. So I'd like to hear you guys comment on perseverance. Um, John, what do you think about this?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. Actually, I think it's one of the. It brings everything together because I love these 10 rules in daily life. When I first started Aikido, this was kind of like, ooh, this is what I need. And perseverance was something that I never had when I was growing up. Yeah. Nobody told me to just keep going and just keep powering through. But when I started just kind of living my life, I noticed a lot of people, role models, who just persevered. Um, this temple member at Mailuku Jodo Mission, he's like this guy who was a Kyodan president, the church leader, and he made so many mistakes, but he, no matter what, he kept going and going. And he just kind of inspired me to just like, it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to fall down. But what inspired me was he always got up and kept going and corrected himself or just kept going. And he laughed and like had a good time. And I thought, okay, I need to absorb that because that's something that I never had when I was growing up. I always thought, oh, I'm not good enough, or I don't have the potential to do this, so I should just stop. And now I know better. Now I know that like if you just keep practicing, if you keep doing something, it doesn't matter if you're the best at it. It just matters if you continue to practice. So perseverance is really important to me.
Yeah, when I would do the intro class course here on Maui, and I tell all the introductory people, 90% of this is just into the dojo and just showing up. You show up consistently, you'll get it eventually. I mean, you know, it's just a matter of just being there. Just be there. Thanks, John. Lillian, how are you tonight?
Hi, Sensei. Hello, everybody. Um, I've always found the word persevere strange. I never came across that word so much until I started watching so much Japanese television. I've always considered myself stubborn, not a perseverer. Nobody was going to beat me down. I was going to let anybody take advantage of me. I was just going to power through things. And then with Aikido, what I've really found is, I guess, my way of perseverance is that when you learn to live in the moment, you realize that everything that you're facing is going to be the past eventually. And if you just deal with what you need to deal now, don't worry about what's coming tomorrow, except what you need to. And so now just living in the moment is, I guess, the way I see perseverance. So right or wrong, that's kind of where my brain is at right now. And
Yeah,
that's it.
these times are like that, with the pandemic and what have you. It can beat you down. I mean, there's a lot of things going on today in the world, and it can get discouraging. But we have to realize that, hey, we just got to continue day in, day out.
If I can say one more thing, I think the other thing that tends to save me, and you realize this yourself, is my goofy sense of humor. It isn't gonna, if it's not gonna kill me, I'm gonna laugh at it. So, but and then by the way, Sensei, I have about a dozen Aikido books, and I haven't looked at any of them recently or in the last few years, except Curtis Sensei's couple of books. And the book I did have from William Reed is that one that you've been reading from. So I've got to pull that out and follow up on some of these things that you've read out of there, because they've been pretty eloquent. So thank you for that also. Made me go and look at my bookshelf a little more.
Yeah. Yeah, it's always good to dust off. I mean, like me, I have a lot of books, and I'll put them away, and then this has caused me, to revisit some of them, to kind of apply a story here or a saying here, and it's really, I have, in fact, I haven't done it yet, but I've got all these letters from Suzuki Sensei that I have them stacked up, and I've not started rereading them yet because I've been involved in this, but I probably will do that very soon, because this is the last of the 10 principles, and so I'll put the other focus more on the next section of Curtis Sensei's book, rather than, because the 10 rules, they were also reflected in Will Reed's book, so that's why I kind of went back and forth between them. But focusing on the next classes, it'll be focused directly on the training manual. But yeah, it's always good to revisit. How are you doing, Kiyomi?
Hi, Sensei. I'm doing well. Thank you. Hi, everybody. I was so tempted to go into online and check what's the difference between perseverance and persistence. But I thought I wanted to listen to other people, so I'm gonna have to ask you a little bit later. But perseverance is very important to me. I think that's the one thing I can do. I am actually good at keep doing it if I really want to, if I like it or if I want to learn something. Like I didn't learn to speak English until I came to the United States, and I couldn't speak anything, and I was 22. And like you, in college, I attended, everybody was like 18 years old. I was 23 already, and I spoke nothing. So it's really difficult. But over the years, I learned culture, I learned how to speak. And also, I wanted to stay in Hawaii, but I didn't have the green card. So only way for me was to come back. I graduated with a geography degree, and nobody wanted to hire me after. So I had to go back to Japan. And the only way I could stay here was I thought I need to get my MBA. So people wanted to hire me. So I came back and I got my degree. And I worked in a hotel for 16 years. And people say, no, you cannot still stay, Like a lot of companies don't give you any visa. But I worked really, really hard for 16 years. And I was able to get the visa. And meanwhile, there was September 11th, and lawyers say, "There's no way you're not gonna stay." But I just kept working, and then finally, I was able to stay. And so I know that even though um, um, currently maybe it's impossible dream, but I keep just doing it until you never give up. I think I'm kind of, in Japanese they call it tsukoi, like everybody quit and then people say, are you still doing it? Like, so I'm just doing it until I think this is it, enough, or I achieve the goal. And so, but then I don't know why I cannot sit a very long time, even though I thought I could persevere. I have a very hard time sitting in the morning and also getting up early. I've been wanting to become a morning person for the last 30 years. I just I have such a hard time. So that's my experience about perseverance. Certain things I think I'm good at. Certain things I'm working on it. But my question is, Sensei, what's the difference between perseverance and persistence?
I don't know. I think they're about the same thing. Being persistent is perseverance. Don't giving up. And persistence is constant, constant, constant. Persevere, I think, has something to do with overcoming. Overcoming certain things. Persistence just means you're continuously at it. Where persevering is you're encountering something that you have to overcome. That's my take.
Like difficulties, but you have to overcome and keep doing it. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So what keeps you from, you said that, doing morning meditation or stuff is difficult for you. What's so difficult?
I think like I don't function very well in the morning. When I get up, I just don't, I feel very tired. And I also can't sleep right away. So I think that's a combination of it. And but recently, since this Zoom session started, I was very inspired by it. So now I'm sitting down maybe 10 minutes, 20 minutes in the morning, most of the week. But I think certain people are not morning made to getting up in the morning. I'm not sure. My parents never be a morning person, but when they got older, they were able to get up early. So I'm hoping that would happen to me too. Or I don't know if a matter of will. I have a hard time.
Yeah, I understand that. It's genetics, actually.
Yeah.
Genetics.
Oh.
I read a really detailed book from a sleep expert from Stanford. And basically he said, genetically, you're either a morning person or you're an evening person. And, evening people have always been made fun of. Oh, you're lazy, you can't, a lot of, whatever, but actually it's in your genes. And I tend to think that because, my company employs, we have 300 employees, and literally more than half of them work graveyard shift. And these people love it. You either like working at night or you hate it. And these guys, they start work at midnight. That's when they come into work, and they're leaving at 8 o'clock in the morning, and they absolutely love that shift. I tried to convince one of the managers to work day shift, and he said, no, I've worked night shift from UPS days for 35 years, and I'm not switching. I like it like that. So definitely he functions better at night than he does during the day. So I tend to believe the science on it. But yeah, so don't feel bad. You can always do breathing at night.
Yes.
I yeah,
Well,
I think that's just as fine.
meditation purpose, I start seeing that like sitting in the morning is very nice and
It is.
peaceful.
It
Right?
is.
You hear the birds and stuff like that. So I'll keep trying. Or I
Require you to do 2 sessions. You can do a morning session and an evening session.
absolutely. Thank you.
You're welcome. Hello, Sensei. How are you today?
I'm good, Sensei. Thanks. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Glad to see you're here.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I think I have maybe a different feeling about perseverance.
Oh, good. Please tell us.
Well, I mean, there are certainly things that I've done throughout my life that, required perseverance to do what I wanted to accomplish. But I think for me, it has to be something that I really want, that makes sense, that I have to do. You have to persevere at work if there's an issue that comes up and you have to figure it out because the group is counting on you, whatever. That's fine. I understand that. When it comes to pushing yourself in a physical way, I've done that several times throughout my life, like I said, and I'm kind of like I'm fine with that now. I did it. I don't have to do it. I don't have to do it anymore. And it was sort of a like, can you? And you push yourself, and it's like, wow, this is hard. Yeah. Oh, this hurts. Yeah. But I feel like there needs to be some common sense applied in those kinds of things, because I don't think it makes any sense to push yourself in a physical way beyond what is really healthy or good for you. And so I have a more, I don't know if I want to say practical view about perseverance, now in a physical way. I'm very careful with students that come to class who are older when they start, because they want to try to be like the younger, and our dojo is an older group anyway, but they want to try to be like the 30-year-olds, and they're not 30, they're 40 or they're 50. And I've tried very hard to coach them to not expect them to do what younger people are doing, and that they have to take more time and they have to do it slowly, because otherwise they just end up getting hurt and then they can't come. So yeah, for me, perseverance, I mean, depending on what it's for, depending on how badly I want something, and depending how safe I think it is for me to push myself in one way or another, then I decide kind of the things in which I want to push myself to accomplish. So
I don't disagree. In fact, when we would have the intro classes and we'd advertise and we get a few people that come in, probably more than half the classes, we would get people that were 60, 63, 62. In their late 50s, 60s, and some in their 70s starting Aikido. So I completely modified our introductory course to where I didn't even teach you pen, because for a 5th kyu test, you don't need to know how to roll. You just need to know how to fall down and roll back. That's it. So I just teach that much.
yeah.
And I completely modified it because I totally agree with you. People get hurt, get discouraged, and they don't come to the dojo.
Yeah.
And that is not what we want. We want to make it available, that, emphasize the key training, emphasize the weapons training, stuff that you don't have to, do falls and stuff. Yeah, I totally get it. I totally agree with you. And we get an older bunch here, and we have an aging dojo. And now that I teach advanced classes, I have to tailor the class. I'm not teaching people that are in their 20s that want to roll around, like, you
Yeah.
know? Yeah, so I totally get it. Yeah. And that brings me to a point where, you know, we've been, you know, we think of perseverance as a physical thing, physical body type thing, but actually it's mental too. You know, we just had the class last Friday when Curtis Sensei was talking about mind body and how, you know, it's more mental, you know, mental is more linked to taiga, universal mind. That's what Toy Sensei is talking about rather than the small mind. And it brought about a lot. You know, we you know, in my small group when we had people discussing it, they were tending to talk about the body a lot. You know, oh, what if I'm so tired I can't, you know, do this, or what if, you know, it was all really talking about the body until I had to kind of direct the conversation more towards, you know, perseverance mentally. You know, we tend to get discouraged. We tend to have, you know, mental issues, and that's not talked about. You know, mental illness is not fashionably, you know, discussed
Mm.
among people. You know, I mean, and that's something we have to consider. You know, so I think, you know, your comments are, yeah, I totally agree with you 100%. You know, physically okay if you want to do young stuff. When you're young, you do crazy things anyway, and I've been guilty of that as just as much as you probably have. So, but now, of course, I'm not doing crazy physical stuff so much. You know, just like you want. You know, some of you guys. So, thank you very much for your comments. Sasaki Sensei, Linda, how are you today? We're discussing, just to give you a rehash, we're discussing perseverance. Um, Basically, Toy Sensei's comments were persevere as long as you live. The Maui manual just basically says persevere. And we're discussing how, you know, our perseverance in our daily life, how we've, uh, you know, just handled it. You know, various people have commented about how they went through persevered through certain things. Um, Difference between perseverance and persistence, that kind of thing.
Difference between perseverance and what?
Persistence.
Oh, persistence. Oh.
What do you think about the term persevere and how it's used in your life throughout?
I think everyone perseveres to some extent. I mean, you wouldn't want to be somebody that gave up easily, or else you go nowhere.
Yeah, I mean,
And
well, I'm wondering if you have any stories from Eto Sensei, because I distinctly remember Eto Sensei saying he didn't start Aikido until he was really older. As he wanted to quit. His wife made him go after he had an open heart surgery, weighing only 90 pounds. And here he was in, you know, late in his 80s and 90s, still teaching Aikido. And you had
yeah.
firsthand, uh, you know, firsthand relationship with that.
Well, he always would say that he was always the slowest learner, and you know the other people could really catch on fast, and they moved wonderfully, and he just kept plugging away because when he started, you know, he realized how much it was beneficial to him for his own health, you know, and meditation, relaxation, and I think that's one of the one things he continually worked at was relaxation, because you know, he needed that, and he told everyone that relaxation is something that will extend not only, you know, your life, but will benefit and enrich it, because you're always hit by stress or some kind of obstacle, if you have a goal, and for him, I know it was initially for health reasons, it was hard for him, but he managed to do at least part of it. I mean, when he was like 93 years old, he kept on saying, I'm still working on relaxation. Okay. But through that, he got involved with the Aikido part. And he just said, well, I was a slow learner, I was older, but he persevered and he managed to get, where he ended up. And he just, to the day he died, he couldn't believe it.
Yeah, I noticed that. I know him, I think it was he was in Arizona and you had accompanied him as a Tomo, and we were at a restaurant. I'm sitting next to Eto Sensei, and he puts his hand on the table and goes, okay, hold my hand down. Don't let me move my hand off this table. And I put my hand on the table, and next thing you know, he lifts it up and he shakes it like this. And I'm like, how did you just do that? I was really strong, and I'm pushing his hand down and he just lifted it up and starts moving me around. It was always just fun and full of energy. And I really loved him a lot. He was a nice guy, nice teacher.
I think the one thing that blew away most of the students was, when you're being pushed, held the shoulders and being pushed when you're sitting down. I mean, he used to have all of us do it. I mean, we sincerely did push hard. We tried to topple him over. And he would say, oh, I'll give you guys a chance. So he'd stick his leg out and he'd lean back more. And we still couldn't push him over.
Yeah,
and he goes, okay, I'm tired of this. Let's get back. And he would come right back up and push us back.
Right. Yeah, I love hearing the old story. A lot of the old stories about the original, teachers, Eto Sensei, Yamamoto Sensei from Oahu, Nonaka Sensei, and of course Suzuki Sensei, who I have the most experience with. But it's always, good to hear about, their generation and that kind of thing. So, Fincher, you're here. You're right dead center in my screen.
Hello, Sensei and everyone. Yeah, persevere. I've been listening to all of these comments and it seems like perseverance has a lot of levels. A lot of subjectivity, and to me it seems that the most important part of it in my life anyway was just the part that's really simple, the part that basically just helped me get over my conveniences, and because it's inconvenient to come to class. It's inconvenient to get up early in the morning. I just want to rest and relax. That's more important, or whatever. And especially if you're training, any kind of training, that's to me one of the first things you have to address, and that's your basic self-convenience levels. I don't know how to put it really, but basically, like that's what the military does to you, right? It just wipes that out. Well, you have a preference? Tough shit. So
I can relate to that.
Yeah. So that the value of perseverance, in the sense of, I don't really want to, but I'm training, so I'll persevere. And I think, to me, that was the most important part, because then you build on that. if you can persevere past your own self-conveniences, then you build on that, and then you get into these incredible acts of, of physical overcoming and everything else. But you never get there until you just deal with the real basics of either your laziness or your self-convenience, or, oh, I'll do it tomorrow, or something like that. And to me, that was kind of the most important part of what I'm defining here and what I've heard as far as perseverance goes. And like you say, you just show up. You just figure you're going to show up. And whether it be, training at the dojo or anything else, you just show up. That's like the first step of perseverance. And then once you kind of get that down, that gives you a foundation that you can build on and become more and more adept at whatever skill you want to pursue. And my gosh, when you look at this list, the 10 rules in daily life, if you didn't have perseverance, you'd be really discouraged trying to accomplish these 9 steps, these 9 rules of daily life, because certainly I can see how I'm not quite there on most of these, but you don't really have to be. Successfully 100% achieving anything if you're persevering. I'm kind of a person that enjoys process, so it's a little bit easier for me. I know people and have friends that are much more inclined to the end results. Oh, I want to be really good at this, or I want to be, really famous in my field. Sometimes it's hard if you're focusing on the end result to persevere, but I'm kind of a person that likes process, likes the small steps. So I think it was a little bit easier for me to apply this. But it is, it's a really important part. How could you ever get through these other steps if you didn't persevere?
Yeah, exactly.
That's my take anyway.
There's a story. I won't name the teacher, but it was an Aikikai teacher, very famous Aikikai teacher, who in the 50s went to Hombu Dojo. And of course, if you don't know this, O-sensei retired from teaching it and basically it turned the dojo over to Toi Sensei back in the 50s, 60s, throughout until 74 when he left. And in the 50s there, O-sensei was living in Iwama. And of course, the main dojo in Tokyo, the Hombu Dojo, there was a guy that came to the dojo, knocks on the door and goes, yeah, I'm here to train with Morie Ueshiba. And they're like, okay, he's actually retired right now and he's in Iwama, but he comes here, every so often, we just don't know when. Would you like to train? Nope, I only want to train with him. Left the dojo, walked out and sat outside. Just sat there. Okay. Next day comes along, guy comes back and says, I'm here to train with Morie Ueshiba. Okay, yeah, we went over this yesterday. He's living in Iwama, and we don't know when he comes. Would you like to train with somebody else? Nope, no thank you, leaves. 3rd, 4th, 5th day, he keeps just coming every day to the dojo, telling him, I'm going to train with Morie Ueshiba. Well, just so happens one Saturday, O-sensei had come in from Iwama, and he was upstairs at his living quarters at the Hombu Dojo, and the guy shows up again and says, yeah, okay, we told you that, he just happens to be here today, but he doesn't train people anymore. I'd like to see him. Say, okay. So the guy goes up, knocks on the door to O-sensei's office, and says, Sensei, there's a crazy man out there who's just continuously comes here every day asking to see you and train with you. And we've offered him to train with other teachers, and he just won't do it. Goes, oh, okay, send him up. Goes up, gets the guy, goes up, meets sensei. Okay, great. You could be my student. You could be a live-in student. Bring your own rice and start tomorrow. And that's how this guy, he tells the story, you know, in his biography. This teacher tells him, he's an Aikikai teacher, he's since passed away, but that's how he started Aikido. And it's kind of, he was kind of using the old style of martial arts, of where the teachers would test you basically to see how persistent you were, to see if you could persevere before even taking you on as a student, you know, and that's kind of the romanticized versions of these things. You know, we talk about the guy who, oh, I want to be a swordsman, you know, and he comes to the teacher and goes, okay, uh, uh, and he goes, no, I really want to be a swordsman. I'll try extra hard, because he says it's going to take him 10 years. Oh, well, in that case, it's going to take you 20, you know, because he was gone on to try extra hard, you know. So that just kind of reminds me of that. But I'd like to just review the 10 rules, since, you know, we've kind of covered perseverance or persevere. You know, the first one was have a universal mind. The second one was love all creation. The third one was be grateful. The fourth one was do good in secret. The fifth one was have merciful eyes and a gentle body. The sixth one was be forgiving and big-hearted. The seventh one was think deep and judge well. The eighth one was be calm and determined. The ninth one was be positive and vigorous. And the 10th of tonight was persevere. I want to go around again and ask what your favorite one is. Since we've been through all 10 now, which one do you enjoy the most, or you want to make it a part of your training, or you that tends to speak to you? Which one do you like? I'll start in the upper left of and we'll just go in order. The upper left happens to be where she always is, Lilia Paiva Sensei. I think it's because you're like the first one to join. You always join at 5:30, and that puts you in the upper left of me. So which one of these is your favorite, or one that speaks to you the most?
Well, it's kind of a toss up between 2 and 3, because I've always loved creation and everything around me and whatnot. But like I've been mentioning a lot lately, the key word I've been hearing over and over this word uh, in my life, not just in Aikido, but in outside influences and everything uh, recently, is grateful. So as much as I love all creation, grateful just seems to be the key thing. And, you know, making sure that even when I sit down to do my meditation, that I really relax and remind myself, even though it's getting to the point now that I don't even have to remind myself, because I've been thinking about it so much. I find that I am much more grateful about everything. Although I do agree with Fincher Sensei that without number 10, it's all kind of moot. You know? So.
Yeah, good. Thanks. Okay, next up, John.
Actually, perseverance. Because
number 10. You like
yeah,
that one?
yeah.
Nice.
Just yeah. Again, like I never grew up with perseverance. It was so easy to not give up necessarily, but just realize it was. I felt like I had to, if I was going to start something, I had to be the best at it or be at a certain level. And I always felt like I couldn't get to that level with my own individuality. And so now that I know that you just, power through, but you do your best, and you learn, and you get better and you get better. So perseverance is a huge thing for me.
Okay, good, good. Kiyomi.
I also like perseverance. One thing, my favorite words is in Japanese is called Jinji tsukushite temme o matsu, which means when you do everything that humanly possible, and at the end you just have to wait for the universe to help you, you know. So I've experienced that many times, that you just do everything you can, you persevere and make all the steps. At the end, universal mind helps. So that kind of goes from 10 to 1. So I think it's a nice connection, and those are my favorite. Thank you.
Fincher, how about you? Oh, you're still muted, Fincher.
There.
There you are.
Yeah. I take number 4, do good in secret. And not because, I have a real investment in that, if you want to call it that, but it's really a fascinating proposal. And when we had a discussion on it, I really learned a lot. And when Curtis Sensei talked about this subject, it really turned it around in my mind that it really it's an unraveling pursuit when you really think about it. And I like the way Curtis Sensei addressed it, when it's like, it's not just one act that you go and, give food or give money and don't tell anybody. It's really moment by moment throughout your day, how you approach most everything you do, because it peels you back to your motives, very personal motives in everything that you do. So I just think it's a real deep subject that it, on the surface, doesn't, you really have to look at it. It can be taken really in a very surface way. Oh, I do good, I donate, I serve food at the church or something like that. But when you really look at it and peel it back and take it into your day, how you approach things, it exposes your own ego so dramatically. So I think that's a real good one for me.
Good. Susan Grigsby Sensei?
Actually, that was my favorite one as well.
Oh, nice.
And sorry I missed the discussion about that. Sounds like it was fascinating. I think of it, I guess, in a more simplified way, which is that, as Fincher mentioned, I feel like it's a very deep idea about how you think about the world and your place in it and others and that kind of thing. And what we see in society today is pretty much the opposite of that. It's what do you whenever you do something, you want to take credit for it, put your name on the building that you donated to or something like that, put your name on the fund that provides educational resources for people. So so I think it's just a really high level of what you feel is your role without feeling any kind of need to take credit for doing something. It's a hard thing to resist, I think, sometimes, that you kind of want to take credit for something that you think was a good thing you did. But yeah, so that's my favorite one.
Nice. Linda Sasaki Sensei?
I think it's perseverance for me too, because that's what I'm a researcher basically, and I do land title, and sometimes they want a certain product, they need to know certain things, and it's just not available in the usual method. So I think after years of it, I come to the point where when I have a situation where I'm stuck, I always have this saying to myself, and I'd sit back and say, okay, what are my options? So, I try to do what needs to be done in a different avenue, or go through a roundabout way to get information, which was something I just did today in order to get the owners of proof of ownership by a state department. And it was not easy to get to because number one, the Bureau of Conveyances is closed. And it wasn't like I could go down and look at the old records. And it was a situation where it wasn't like, here's a deed, and it comes down a chain. Unfortunately, it was a situation where there were a lot of subdivisions by the state, and they issued out new conveyances because of the subdivisions. So instead of doing the regular thing, it took me like 3/4 of my day to do it. But, I guess as a researcher for stuff like that, perseverance is something I've always relied on.
Nice. Nice. Thank you very much. Charlotte, I did not call on you. I'm sorry. Oh, there she is.
Yes, I'm there. At least at parts. I'm a bit tired. It's early here because I'm in Germany.
So it's like 7 a.m.
Okay, so maybe anyway, important point is also perseverance for me. And so without, I wouldn't be here. I train in Krefeld with Crystal. And before we came to that dojo, we lived some nice, funny stories. So without perseverance, I wouldn't have stayed. Anyway, so, but also in other points, in other situations, I wouldn't have reached at the point I'm now. I just retired, so I lived quite a big part of my life. And what I thought about when I listened to the others was that for me, perseverance without learning how to let go of will kill you. You have to know how to let go to be able to keep on. And that was also a big experience, yes, throughout my life, but also the last autumn. I did a trip for 3 months. I was walking from Germany to Spain. So I'm not that young. I am not completely healthy. I didn't believe that I would reach, and not especially not in 3 months. I had at least to walk 25 kilometers a day. So I knew it would be very tough. And what I experienced is when I'm able to let go of the aim to reach, but just stay in the moment, do what I have to do now, maybe walk slowly, relax completely, do all these things we learned in Aikido, walk from one point, breathe from one point, and still keep in mind what you want to do, but to let go of completely. Then you can do the best. So I would never have believed before that despite of the difficulties, pains, which I tried to release at once, because I know when I stay keeping off, when something tells me, oh, it's not good what you're doing at the moment, at my age, you can't do it. It will kick you off. So at the end, I reached far before I ever thought. I did 30 kilometers a day in an average. And I don't know how I did it. So of course, that's a big point. It has always been throughout my life. I got lots of problems already when I was young, and there have been times where it seemed like I'm not able to do anything. At times I didn't even know how I could maybe get a job, earn a living, and I just kept on. I just looked what is the most important, what do I have to do now, and just leave aside all the rest and just concentrate on that. Okay, when there's space to do something else, do it, but if not, just keep on and we'll see where you get. So that's important. Maybe now I get at a point where I should look more at the other 9, because that one I live very much. Okay.
Thank you so much for sharing. I really enjoyed listening to that. That's great. You know, in fact that you said letting go of the thing, and that's the one that I have the most difficult with is be forgiving and big-hearted. Forgiveness to me is very tough. I struggle with that every day, and that's just another form of letting go. And I am I'm a stickler for, remembering things, especially if I don't agree with them so much. That's always been something I've constantly battled with, being forgiven. Forgiveness to me is something I have really struggled with all my life and still do. And, so listening to you, Charlotte, it really resonated with me. Thank you so much. So with that, we're out of time, and I do have a quick story that I found that I think will touch on perseverance. Once upon a time, a father was very frustrated with his son because he did not seem very manly, though he was already 16 years old. The father went to see a Zen master and asked the master to help his son become a real man. He told the Zen master that his biggest fear was that his son will never know what success is. The master said, "I can help you. However, you'll have to leave your son at my place for 3 months. For the whole period, you're not allowed to come see him. I will assure you satisfaction after the 3 months." As promised, the father did not come back until the 3 months later. The master arranged a karate match to show the father the training results. When the competition was started, the father found out that the opponent was not only a karate trainer, but a master. The trainer certainly made sure that he was fully prepared to win before he started to attack. On the other side, the son fell on the floor as soon as he was attacked without any resistance. However, the boy did not surrender and got up immediately after he fell. It went on like this for no fewer than 20 times. His father was embarrassed and felt pain but dared not say anything. The boy lost badly when the match was over. The master asked the father, "Don't you think your son was showing manliness?" I felt ashamed of him. After 3 months training, what kind of results is this? He is so weak and falls to the floor as soon as he is attacked. I don't think he is manly at all. The father was very disappointed. The Zen master said, "I'm sorry that you could look at the superficial forms of failure and success. Didn't you notice that your son had courage and bravery for standing up after his falls? It is a success more times than he falls, which is what a real man would possess. Many more skilled fighters are not as brave or as manly as your son is." The father had a sudden enlightenment and thanked the master deeply, and then he took his son home, feeling full of pride. So with that, we'll end, and I'll see you guys next week. Thank you so much. Domo arigato gozaimashita. Have a good evening and a good week. Thanks.